Hey, here we are, Heads Up Advisor, another new show. John Sabraco is out getting some beautification done to himself, and we are going to carry the weight of the show tonight. And today we're going to talk about the Referability Roadmap. So let's, without any further ado, but wait, it's Groundhog Day today, isn't it?
It
Yeah.
is.
What an interesting metaphor for the insurance brokerage industry, where it's possible to wake up every day and 5 years from now you're in exactly the same spot. The book size is not much different other than trend and inflation, and you're wondering, I had all these great ideas. I mean, what happened? What got in the way? And so we're going to kind of talk about how to avoid Groundhog Day in your business with some very, very simple strategies that we can all use to help ourselves. So with no further ado, let's talk to Bill. Bill, tell us who you are.
Hey, Craig, thank you so much. Hey, you guys have an awesome introduction, by the way. So I'm getting pumped up just listening to that. So, hey, thanks for having me on tonight. I'm Bill Utnage. I am the founder and owner of Damascus Road Coaching and Consulting. Been a business owner, entrepreneur for, I hate to say it, this is my 32nd year after leaving the military in 1991. So, and also the author of the Referability Roadmap book that I released in September of last year. So nice. Excited to be here. Excited to kind of talk business. I love talking sales. So yeah, let's jump into it.
Let's jump into it. Referability. A lot of syllables in that word. We got to break it down. How do we make this? What's the simple explanation, Bill?
Yeah.
When you're talking to somebody, right? You got a 10-second pitch. You're riding down the elevator with them, and they go, "Hey, I know you're. What's that book you got there?"
Yeah, exactly. And so, when I was writing the book, and I'm a much better talker than I am a writer, but, it was one of those things where, I had a lot of different ideas on a title. And so really what it got me thinking about is it was really the key piece of it is like, how do we become more referable, right? How do we, from the people that already know, like, and trust us, be able to share who we are and our value with others. And so I talk about, how do I raise my referability, if you would. I think it's a made up word, but the referability rating of, like, to be able to increase that and to be able to how do I create those relationships and build that business? So kind of what I share about in the book is kind of that step-by-step process of doing that. And just like what you said, Craig, it's, we're not splitting atoms. The book it's an easy read. My attention span is not that great. So I wasn't writing War and Peace, but what I wanted it to do is just basically be able to, support folks like your folks, right? So brokers that are, looking to, how do we grow and how do we scale our businesses?
Well, you said something, and for those of you watching or listening, show of hands, raise your hand if you have customers, clients, acolytes, people who love you, know you, like you, and trust you. That always resonates with me. You already have a bunch of people who know you, like you, and trust you. Mm-hmm. And therein lies your opportunity to leverage that relationship. And so what are some of the ways that people can do that in the insurance industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and so I think you look at it, Craig, as being simple, is what you just said, is look right now, at your current, database. If you don't have one, that's a whole other conversation we can have. And I'm sure the guys have covered that at some point or will, right? Is looking at your database.
Everybody has clients already.
Right. Exactly. So you're looking at your current, at that, it's like, all the people that already are doing business with you right now, you have a relationship with, is then how are you bringing value to them in a different way? And so it's, how are you staying connected with them? The key piece is consistency in doing that, and not just, picking up the phone and calling them, all the time, but getting to know them, and what are some of the challenges that they're having, and who in their world may be having, similar challenges that you can help them really kind of take care of. And as you become more of a trusted advisor, there's where you start becoming less of a commodity and more of someone where they're going to lean into you on that.
Yeah. I remember a great story. So I'll make this pitch, Bill, and then you tell me, is this the wrong way to do it or the right way to do it? So you're talking to your client and you say, I'd like to impose upon our friendship by asking you to refer your closest friends to someone who sells insurance. Would you say that's the wrong way to ask for a referral?
I would
Yeah.
say that. Now, here's the thing, Craig. It's a way, right? There's a million ways to do things, but with that part of it is because that's how does that feel? So when you hear that, it's like, that feels very salesy, right? If you will. But what
Yeah.
happens is if you can build a relationship and you understand the value that you bring. And so is being able to then be able to share that with that person in a conversation where it's like, hey, and do it at a time where like the person's like, hey, Craig, thank you so much. Hey, for taking care of us, man. We hit our numbers that we needed to hit in fourth
Yep,
quarter,
yep.
and when they're in, as and I'll steal this from Tony Robbins, is when they're in state. So they're happy, right? There's where the time to kind of share with them and saying, hey, Craig, thank you so much. It's been my pleasure to be able to support you. Hey, who else do you maybe know that could be maybe struggle with the same things that you guys struggle with, that we can maybe be able to have a conversation with and see if maybe we might be a good fit. So
Yeah. See,
you
that you're making my point, right? The reason I said it in such an awkward, stumbling way, because that's what some people sound like,
yeah,
because maybe they don't revere themselves, right? Sometimes these brokers, what do they call imposter syndrome, right?
yeah,
They're kind of, they don't really believe, and so they have to build up the courage, and so they need to practice. My gosh, use the cell phone, record yourself, and
yeah.
see what it sounds like, see how it feels. Is it natural? Is it authentic to you? Because if you stumble, if you fumble, if you spill your popcorn in the lobby first, it's gonna come off as I'm not really that confident. Nobody wants to refer anybody to average. And
Yep.
so if you're doing a great job, you catch them when they're happy. So that means when you just delivered a 21% renewal, that's probably not when they're in state in love with you.
Exactly. And that's absolutely it. You hit it, right on it, to where you understand, and understanding that you need to be one. When you have competence, it leads to confidence. I'm going to say that again because I talk fast. When you have competence, meaning is that your trade, your skill, what you do, your product, what you deliver, that leads to confidence. Because if you think about the first time you ever did anything, so let's take snow skiing. If you snow skied the first time, you probably weren't the best at it, but the more you did it, the more competent you became, the more confident you became. And so, that's something that I share with folks all the time, is that you want to be a master of your trade. It doesn't really matter what it is, because when you know that and you know how to handle objections without even having to think, there's where
Right.
that's the difference between a professional and an amateur. You see, professionals get paid, amateurs only get trophies. And so that's why, we want to really take this serious, because it can absolutely change not only your business, but it can change your life as well.
And so you've said multiple times, which is what I like, solving a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guys, gals, you got to pay attention to the problems you solve, not the names of the stuff and the products and the features that you sell. What are the solutions you're delivering? What are the problems you're solving for that person? What did he say at the beginning? Find out what their problems are. What are their challenges? And then you can relate to them what other people in your network
Yeah.
have similar problems that our firm could solve for you, just like we did for you guys, right? And now you've got an easy conversation, an easy way in, but it's not about the products, it's about the solutions, it's about the problems you solve. That's really important.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the issue of it is going back to, it's asking questions. whoever has asked the better questions controls the conversation. It's just, and as you go deeper, and when someone says, because usually what I find is that you're not going to get the real answer on the first or second, or even maybe the third question. It's when you keep digging deeper. Well, hey, Craig, tell me a bit more about that, that challenge. What is that? Because this is what professionals do, right? You don't stop at the first objection. You don't stop at the like, oh, well, we just need more money to the bottom line. Okay. Share with me, help me understand what that looks like. Because if you can start asking that and getting that peeled back, there's where all of a sudden is like, this is the person in front of you thinking, this person's different than the other people that I talk to, right? Because you're going deeper.
One of the things that John and I talk about is don't be needy. And when you're in a hurry, when you don't flush out the real answer that they're giving you, we don't peel the onion layer after layer by going deeper, as you put it, right?
Right.
You're going to miss out on all the good stuff.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I always say, I want to go, coming out of, the real estate world, training agents is, going deeper. What's the next? I want you to go at least 5 questions deep. Now, it's not an interrogation. So you have to be, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying just to keep bulleting, interrogating them. This is where you have to get that skill set of, asking questions. And, Craig, both you and I are, similar age, I'm sure. Think back to Columbo. Columbo did an amazing job because he was just like, hey, what about, and it was very, non-confrontational, but he was able to get all the information that he ever needed, right? Without ever really asking a pointed question.
And for those of you who are immature and don't understand the reference, Columbo's great shtick was he was out the door. And it was like, just before he left, he was like, oh, one more question.
He put his finger on he put his finger on his head. He'd go, what would it look, and then it was just,
he lets them think they're going to get away. And they, wait, just one more.
Yeah. So for our younger viewers on this, go to YouTube and type in Columbo. You can see everything is there. But all kidding aside, it's a way to basically have a conversation, not have, I would say in the real estate world is not have commission breath. When you have commission breath, basically is that when you're tied to the outcome of of the money, because you're like, I already spent the money and you don't even have it yet.
We call it desperate and needy.
Yeah. Exactly.
Smell it on you.
Exactly.
I didn't realize it was on their breath. So that's good to know.
That's why they can smell it, because it's on their breath. And so here's the thing is just understanding that and kind of going, sharpen your skills. This is what I love about what you and John are doing, Craig. This, this kind of pouring into people, this kind of training, all of these things that you and I both know this. I mean, I know how much money I've spent over the course of my life and career on training, and what you guys are doing is, I'll be honest with you, it's fantastic for what you're doing for your people and for anybody that just in sales in general, even though they may not be, they may be healthcare brokers.
Yeah, I mean, healthcare brokers, while it can appear to be a simple task, it actually serves a really great purpose, and it helps a lot of people because, especially today, healthcare is very expensive for most average workers, and the ability to have an impact on people's financial lives is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk to our audience about. Do you have to coach people sometimes on, when you're asking them to make an introduction? It's how do you prompt them to think of, well, this angle, that angle, these people, those people.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a good question. And the thing about it is that we teach people it's our job to teach people how to refer us. It's not their responsibility to refer us ever, right? Just because they're doing business with us. And so the key part of that is that when you have that kind of relationship, is letting people know, hey, these are the folks that I'm looking for, that I feel that I can strongly help. And this is how a referral could work. Hey, if you know somebody like that, is to make a joint introduction, either, via email or via text, or get permission for me to reach out to them. And so that way, if we teach those folks how to do it, because then it will make it easier. Because if they're like, well, I don't know how to, how would I refer? But if you share that with them and then they understand that, they'll be more likely, to do that. And the issue as we both know, Craig, is them, go, don't give them my card, right? Because then it's on them and they're busy and they're going to forget. So that's where you always want to I always talk about, hey, would you mind making, Craig, a mutual introduction between me and Steve? If there's, us to set up and you have a conversation, right? Just ask for the order. In this case, ask them to make the introduction, because then it becomes a warm introduction. Yep. And that makes that's the game changer on that.
And depending on your market and how you like to sell, if you're face to face, what's your opinion on this? If you're face to face and you collected a book of written, references, testimonials from customers, and you just go, can you see all these people live in your neighborhood, your real estate, right? This is our area, and we're the best. Everybody loves us, as opposed to probably mostly in our corporate world of sales. Hey guys, texts have a 93% open rate. People will respond to an email from a friend. So odds are you're going to get a text message introducing us or an email introducing us. And whatever you do, for Pete's sake, should they wait a week to follow up?
No. The fortune is in the follow-up and speed. And speed favors the successful. It just does. And so, because think about, we live in a world of instant gratification. So right now, like a week of response time, to be honest with you, you might as well just not do it. Not at all. Do it. Here's the thing you always hear me say, do it now. Do it now. Do it now. Right now. If it's 2 a.m, maybe not do it now, but realistically it's like, get back to them the very next day, that day, and to be able, because it also shares with them who you are, right? Is like, hey, this is somebody that, that connected. And also when you get the referral and you actually you meet that person, I'm big on, you want to appreciate and thank the person that referred you. That is huge. And making sure is like, hey, Craig, thank you so much. And I'm going to go old school for a minute, Craig, on this deal. Is it's easy to send a text and go, hey, Craig, thanks for doing that. I'm going to challenge you, and I'll challenge the viewers and everyone watching this. Write them a handwritten note. Write them a handwritten note and just say, hey, I want to thank you so much for making that introduction. I really appreciate it. If there's ever anything, hey, more that I can do for you, please let me know. Right? Something as simple as that. And because the reason why, think about the last time, and as you're watching this either live or on the replay, I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time I got a handwritten note from someone, and do I still have it? I keep all the handwritten notes anyone ever my business has ever written.
Yeah, that's funny you say that, because I have a folder of handwritten notes that customers have sent to us over the years. I haven't looked at it in years, and I think I just save them out of habit. But yeah, there is a different depth of appreciation because you've taken the time. Now, anybody who's listening and watching this, you can private message me, hit me up later if you want to know about a SaaS vendor whose machines write handwritten notes. And every handwritten note is different. So you can automate the process if you're really lazy. Or you have bad penmanship like I do, which I think is like my adult passive aggressive to growing up in Catholic school and having the nuns beat the hell out of me.
Yeah. I have the handwriting of a doctor. I just didn't have the brain for medical school, apparently.
Yeah, my handwriting's gotten so bad. I print. I usually print.
I do too. I'm with you, but I'm going to tell you this. And for those, it's, and again, the technology has changed on that, but I'm just going to tell you, even if you don't overthink it, even if you have bad penmanship, the people don't care about your penmanship. They care about the fact that you took the time to sit down, write out a note, hand address it, put a stamp on it, and put it in the mail to send, to them. And I mean, I can't tell you, that little thing of how that has opened up doors for me and tell people, hey, I really appreciate your business as well. Because I think that's one of the things that actually, I did a podcast on this morning in one of my groups. And it's just, it's the lost art of being appreciative.
Yeah. Being grateful comes back to you in so many ways. And unfortunately for a lot of entrepreneurs, you don't spend enough time enjoying the moment. On to the next one, squirrel, you know, and so you've got to take the time out to be grateful for your business and the time it affords you, the autonomy, right, the growth, the money, the flexibility. And if you're not at that point, then you should really be paying attention to this episode. Because
Yeah.
is there anything easier than a referral? I mean, what do you think is easier, right? A total cold call or a warm referred lead?
Yeah, I will take the warm referred lead over every single thing. And I have now 32 years. I've done it a lot of different ways, from marketing on TV to every gimmicky thing or you can think of to, to do now. It's like, oh, it's Facebook ads. It's all of these other things. And I'm not saying that you don't supplement in that, and that can't work to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But if Craig goes, hey, you need to talk to Bill. He does a great job for us. I've got about a 90% chance, as long as I just don't screw it up, that I'm going to, not that I may guarantee the business, but I'm going to get a meeting with that person. I just am, and then it's going to be up to me to be able to close the business. But then I'm already way ahead of everyone else that's trying to call and go, hey, we can save you 20% from your bottom, all the other things that they're trying to share with people. This is why it's so important. And you said it, Craig, and I don't want us to overlook it, is we have to slow down. That's the challenge. As you can tell, I run at a fairly quick pace. I know you do as well, and John. But so the piece of that is that, because what happens is we miss things when we're, John Wooden, he had a great saying. He goes, be quick, but don't hurry. Right? There's a difference, right? When we rush, it's okay to have a pace of speed, as long as we're in control of it. And so what happens a lot of the times is that we're running, and our mouth is running way faster than what our brain can process. And that becomes a challenge.
Hey, Margot, spotted on Bill. I want to grab something for a second.
So, but it's, I just want to, as we're talking about this, is just to be thinking like, hey, where in my business or in my communication, maybe am I rushing too much? And if you're in like in most sales people, and I'm the same thing, is like, I'm ready because I'm already farther down the road, because I know kind of where they need to be. The challenge of it is that they may not quite be there yet. So by mirroring, matching their pace is another huge thing, is understanding, and also understanding personality traits. One of the things that I've used for years is the DISC profile. And
is that right?
Yeah. And the DISC, because then I understand, right? If as I understand people, if I'm around somebody for about a minute and I can just hear the way they talk, the way they dress, all of these things, and kind of go, all right, I need to slow my pace down, or usually I don't have to speed it up, but usually I know I have to slow it down. If I know that they're more analytical, then I know I need, then it's like, hey, they need the details.
Yeah. If they're talking some numbers really quickly here.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. I learned from having to, about 4 or 5 years ago, I got introduced to sales in the South. And let me just say that Mark Twain had it nailed. He said, before I die, I'm going to move to Louisiana, so it'll take longer.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Things are very, very different there. So what I wanted to grab, you mentioned John Wooden.
Mm-hmm.
This is
I love
John
it.
Wooden's Pyramid of Success.
Yep.
I spent 2 summers in John Wooden's basketball camp when I was a kid.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
He started off every year. Everybody sat on the ground. Talk about fundamentals. The man showed you how to put on your socks and shoes, because you know what? If you got blisters on your feet, you couldn't play at all.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's how process driven he was.
Yeah. And I, and I absolutely love that. I'm a huge fan. I mean, what John Wooden did, it was amazing what he did, with the number of championships that, that they won. But, going back to it, Craig, and again, there's so many nuggets, like there's all these things, and, we could spend, a day on this talking about all these things. But the other thing of it is it's, people want to overlook the fundamentals anymore, because it's looking at the newest, next shiny thing. And so when we start talking about fundamentals, and, guys like you and I that are more matured, they're like, oh, that's old school, that's old school stuff. And, it's different now because it's 2023. And I'm like, is it really? you know, because I beg
Did
to
something
differ.
happen with human nature in 20 years
Yeah,
that has existed for 200,000 years?
just because of the invention of the internet, you know, those things. And so
Yeah.
it's, you know, people, we were designed, I believe, that to be in relationship, right? You see it. I mean, all the time. It's like people want to be in relationship. And so the key part of that is that, and not everybody, you know, and it's funny, you know, you guys had Tony Hughes on, you know, on a previous episode, and was in, and Tony was talking about where you guys were talking about relationships. And the thing about it is, it's like, you're not trying to be best friends and, you know, you're going to spend like every weekend with these people. But the difference of it is that if they know you, like you, and trust you, and they look at you, and what I love what you guys talked about on that episode is that you to be a trusted advisor, you're somebody that can solve a problem, right? So they look at you. So we get caught up in relationship because people think it's airy fairy, and it's like, oh, well, I got to be going to their house for dinner all the time. No, that's not it. It's the issue of building that relationship and them looking at you much different than they're going to look at every other salesperson because of that relationship, and because they look at you because you're bringing them value, you're helping them solve a problem in their business.
Yep. That's what it's all about. It's like you've got to establish and understand what value you bring based on the services you provide. And it can be different at every client, depending on what makes their hair on fire and which fires you put out for them.
Yeah.
It's not just that they have a need for health insurance and you sell that to them.
Yeah.
If it is, then guess what? You know, if you were a pool of water, you wouldn't be an ocean, a lake, a stream, or a river. You'd be a puddle.
Yes.
And that would be a reflection of the depth of your relationship. So figure out more ways and more problems to solve by asking better questions about the problems they have, the challenges they have. And then if it happens to be that you can be a solution provider for those things, you're going to enhance the depth and breadth and experience that you have with this group, this person, this manager, this owner, and they're going to be very willing to introduce you to other people that they know, other people in their you know, association, other people in their Rotary group, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the other thing is to help them solve a problem that's not something that you solve. And I'm going to give you just kind of talk about that is because if you're in conversation with these people, and especially if they, what I call in my world, you know, if they're what we call advocates, right? These are people that, you know, they love you, they will refer you, they're great, they're great clients. Is what other things in their life is going on when you're having a conversation? So, you know, a conversation maybe, Craig, it's like, hey, what's going on outside of business right now that, you know, that maybe that you're challenged with or you need help on? And it doesn't even really matter what that is, because you may know someone that you could connect them with that could help them with that problem, right? They may have a, you know, hey, yeah, my son's struggling. He's in playing baseball and he's, you know, struggling with this or whatever. It's like, hey, you know what? I happen to know a hitting coach. This guy's great. He played major league. Hey, could I connect you guys to, you know, with that? And when you do something like that, that takes that thing to a whole different level, because Craig, just like what you said, when we become a commodity and the only thing we have is price, because here's the thing, in the absence of value, the only thing you have is price, and it's a race to the bottom. It just is. And but when things start tightening up and they're like, man, and they only have a relationship with you only on the price alone, there's always going to be somebody that's going to swoop in and they're going to cut you on it. And if that relationship is that thin, guess what? They're going to move on. But I do believe this is like, if there's a deeper relation, I'm not saying that they won't ever, but it's going to be harder for them to go, man, I gotta let Craig go. But man, he brings a lot of other value to me, you know, in my life. And that's what you want. I mean, ultimately.
Right. Guys, it can be as simple as the owner's, okay, a personal story.
Okay.
The owner's wife is a fanatical Lakers fan. Well, if we can experience Lakers experiences together, we will have more than how much is that dang renewal, right? It's like, hey, don't shoot the messenger, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I had a relationship like that I had the client for 29 years.
Wow.
They finally sold, but in that time we had unbelievable experiences. And, in our industry, it's very easy to reverse engineer ways you could help your buyers with problems they're going to have by the nature of the fact they're helping to run a company. 30 years ago, I used to ask, I dealt with a lot of small mid-market companies, and I said, how do you know how much to pay an engineer? How do you know how much to pay the new, sales VP? Those kind of questions. Very simple. It's like, oh, well, we belong to this association, and, they kind of do a survey every few years, and we just, call people we know. So I went out and bought the software that 100% of the Fortune 500 used. So would it be valuable if you could go to your direct report, your boss's boss, and go, hey, here's what people pay for this job description in the 10th, 25th, 50th, 75th, 90th percentile. Here's the incentive. Here's the bonus comp. Wouldn't you shine
Oh my
to your
God.
bosses if you could say, this is what we should pay them, and look at where we've been. We're too low, too high. Would that add value? Great. Call me anytime you get a new hire and you want to know what you should be paying them. And so we had a whole nother level of involvement just for the process of looking some stuff up for them.
Yeah. And probably what you paid for that software too, Craig, was based upon, the renewals that you got and kept, on that.
Right.
And
we talk about it all the time. What's the lifetime value of a customer? If you know what it is, you know how much you can invest in marketing and servicing and providing added value.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the key thing is, and I talk about that in the book, but you got to know your numbers. There's the other thing is like what Craig just talking about is like, what is that lifetime value? What does it cost us to acquire a client, right? Too, at the same time. And so by knowing our numbers, then we are in control of our business. If we're not in control of our numbers, and whether that's at home or in your business or whatever, then it's just like, well, I think it's this. Don't tell me what you think. Tell me what you know, because that's what only thing that matters.
Yeah, it's really hard for people to not focus on inexperienced business people. Everything's an expense. Well, I got news for you, pals. You can only drive expenses to zero, and that ain't going to help you with revenue. So most of the things that you're looking at, investigating, considering, pondering, might be trying are just cash flow timing. That's where you've got to have the confidence and the persistence and the consistency to say, if I do it, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to continue to do it because I know it's a numbers game and I'm going to get the numbers that I need. And so while I have to front this cash, I'm going to get it with this time frame. And then we normally keep a client 7 years. Of course, it's going to pay for itself. So a little bit of discomfort on the front end can pay lots of dividends on the back end. But like you said, you got to know your numbers. You got to have the confidence. You have to have faith to be able to know that what you're doing is the right thing, and that you have the skills and the temperament and the talent to be able to convert a prospect into a customer.
Yeah. And when you know those numbers, then it's in looking at it, look at it differently. It's what's the investment, not the cost, because what happens is people look at it going, well, what's that going to cost me? What's the investment? What's my good return on that going to be? And if you're tracking your numbers, then that way, it, right? We hold our money accountable. And you look at this and kind of go, yep, all right, I know, like what you said, Craig, there's going to be this upfront, but I know my lifetime of my client, and I put these systems, and that's the other thing, putting systems and processes into place to where it's wash, rinse, repeat in these. And so it's easy to do and it's easy not to do, as Jim Rohn would say. And the key part of it is that and I include myself in this, is that a lot of times we make it way harder than it needs to be. And the reason we do it is because of right here between our ears, right?
Yep. You mentioned Jim Rohn, right? So, hey man, I'm a lifelong learner. So my favorite Jim Rohn was, do you want to be a wandering generality or a meaningful specific? And once you figure that out, you can't be stopped.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, and this is why, investing in yourself, investing in, for learning, like if in just, there's a statistic, it's 3% of all, business owners or people in sales will actually invest in themselves, go to conferences, hire a coach, do all of these other things. 3%. So just by you listening to this or watching this, congratulations, you're in the top 3% already. Now it's going into figuring out what skill am I weak in, and go find someone that's an expert in that. And then you're going to pay them, but they're going to collapse time for you versus having to learn it over the next 2 years.
Say that again. Collapse time for you. Put it in layman's English for those guys and gals who just went. Whew.
Yeah. The issue of it is that what they're going to do is they're going to take, their 30 years of knowledge and be able to condense that down, because all the mistakes that they've made, and be able to share that with you condensed. You get the Cliff Notes version. It's like, okay, do this, don't do that, versus you wanting to learn it on your own. It's going to take you 30 years to learn it. A quick story, Craig, and you probably have heard this, is that Picasso one day was in the market square, and a woman came up to him and said, "Hey, would you draw me a picture?" And he pulls out a piece of paper and he sketches a picture out and does that like in less than a minute. And he gives it to her and she goes, "Well, what do I owe you for that?" And he goes, $1 million. And she goes, $1 million? It only took you a minute to do it. He goes, "Yes." He goes, "But it took me 20 years to be able to do it in 1 minute." And so the story of that is that you're paying not for time when you're getting a coach, you're paying for the knowledge that they know that they can give you, that will all of a sudden compress 30 years down into, in this story of Picasso, into 1 minute.
Right. The way I would put it is, you have to be willing to invest in yourself so that the deep-seated belief that you have in your potential will finally align with your income statement. And it's that disparity, it's that cognitive dissonance between the results and the outcomes that you're getting, sometimes as measured by your income level, gives you great consternation, because you feel, you believe, you think that you can do so much more, that you are so much more. And so the only way, unless you want to do the long road like I did, I went out on my own. I got a job for 18 months out of college and went, I don't think so. I'm a chief. I'm not a good Indian. And I was self-employed at 24. Went through all the hard knocks you just referenced, right? Learn by mistakes. And so I enjoy trying to help mentor younger, talented people who don't have so much history, so they can get out of the way. They don't think about it. They just do the stuff we recommend, and hey, lo and behold, it works. And so let's figure out how to help you realize your potential faster by compressing the time it takes to be successpeople. That's what it's all about. That's why we're here tonight. Yeah,
absolutely. This is why you guys are doing what you're doing. This is why, write people that write books and do these things. And it's really to get it, like when I wrote the book, is to get it out of my head and be able to, hopefully that somebody can pick it up, read the book in an hour and get actionable, right? Get into action and start doing something and believing in yourself. Here's the thing. If you don't believe in yourself, then there's the first issue, is believe that you can do it, because I 100% believe it. I mean, I'm like with you, Craig. I came out of the military, in 1991, immediately went into owning, business, became an entrepreneur, and I learned it, the hard way. Back then, the coaching world, it was different. This thing that we are on tonight,
you're on cassette tapes.
Exactly. Well, even back in the old days, 8-track tapes, and even if we would have really go back on a reel to reel, but the issue of it is that we don't have an issue of lack of information. We are living in the information age. The issue is taking that information, knowledge, to action, right? Because everyone can go, we all know this, Craig. There's people that are like, all they do is they go to seminars, they read all the books. The issue is you gotta implement.
No action. Right.
Yeah. You have to implement. And here's the thing, folks. And you may mess up, you may fail, but you know what? Here's the thing. Get up, and here's one of the things that I live by is we either win or we learn. And you understand, I didn't say we either win or we lose. When we win or we learn. And if we didn't win, what did we learn? Why didn't we win? And we look at that and kind of go, what could I have done better, with this last time? And I did this in my real estate business for years. If I went early on in my career, when I was working with clients, go to and meet someone about listing their home. If they didn't hire me and they decided to go with someone else, First, I'm thanking them. Hey, thank you for giving me the opportunity. Hey, I want to get better. What could I have done differently? What could I have said or done differently?
That takes a lot of courage.
It does. But do you want to look good, or do you want to make more money? Because sometimes you don't get to be both. I mean, that's just the nature of it. Yeah. And get feedback. And I'd have people go, wow, that's interesting that you're willing to do that. I'm like, I want to get better. And they're like, well, this person just had whatever it was. It doesn't matter what they said. Yeah. I'm like, thank you so much, for that. Because then it's like, if it's something that I can change, then I want to change that, because the next time I go, I'm going to get better.
So before we sign out, tell people, where can they find your book?
Yeah. So right now you can go to Amazon. You can get that Referability Roadmap. This is what the book looks like.
Show it.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
It's trust me, it's not War and Peace. It's only going to take you about an hour to read, but I wrote it for that very reason. It's actionable. It's just actionable items to do. And so Amazon, you can get it on hard copy, or you can get it Kindle, all those places there. And
hey, before we sign off, I liked your point about, this world of too much data, right? Just constantly, right? It's all about less. Less is more important, right? Mm-hmm. So the thought for the day is, when Michelangelo was asked, how do you carve these unbelievable statues? He says, I just get rid of what don't belong. Mm-hmm. I get rid of what doesn't belong there. And I release what's already there, right? So mm-hmm. he gets, it's not more that we need. And this is the paradox. We don't need more product, more features, more benefits, more stuff. Mm-hmm. We need less. And that can deepen the relationship. So Margot, who's our show sponsored by tonight? These are things John normally takes care of. Sponsored by Virtue Alliance. Thank you. Yes, a consortium that you guys all need to investigate, because in the average world, where you have small to mid-market groups buying stop loss, you live and die based on your standalone results. It's far superior to be in a consortium where you can have a pooled experience, so that you're not left to the vagaries of the uncertainty of claims activity, and you can smooth it out. Call John Sabraco to figure out what I just said. Hey, it was great meeting you. Great talking to you tonight.
Yeah, likewise, Craig. Thank you guys so much. Margot, thank you. It was an absolute pleasure. Love what you guys are doing.
Thanks, Bill.
If you're watching and listening to this, these guys are where you want to be. If you listen to what they do, if you listen to half of what they do and implement all of it, there'll be no stopping you.
We appreciate it. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you next Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific.